Today, financial markets in the United States and Canada are closed on the occasion of Labor Day. The New York session on Friday was jam-packed with the macroeconomic data and corporate news. The benchmark stock indexes closed mixed. The Dow Jones added 0.33%, the Nasdaq closed with a 0.02% downtick, and the S&P 500 climbed by 0.18% to close at 4,515 points. On a Monday, the US stock market is thin because of the public holiday. Futures on the stock indexes edged up by 0.06% and 0.17%. The S&P is expected to trade in the intraday Canada between 4,500 and 4,540 points. The S&P 500 closed higher on a Friday because a jump in employment growth cemented expectations for a pause in rate hikes this month. The U.S. Labor Department reported that the jobless rate rose to 3.8% in August, but wage growth decreased. The number of jobs in the public and private sectors grew more than expected. Besides, the data for July was downgraded to 157,000. The metrics complemented the recent macroeconomic evidence that the Federal Reserve is winning in the fight against high inflation. So, investors now cherish the hope that the Fed cycle of monetary tightening is about to end soon. Interest rate futures indicate a 93% probability that the Federal Reserve will keep rates unchanged at its meeting at the end of this month. The corporate sector Friday was also hot. While Disney shares fell by 2.4%, Charter Communications shares dropped by 3.6% due to a disruption dispute. Warner Bros. Discovery shares stumbled by 12%. Paramount Global lost 9.5%. Fox Corp shares dropped almost by 6%. The most traded stock in the S&P 500 index was Tesla. The electric car manufacturer's securities lost 5% after the company lowered its prices for its Model S and Model X cars in the United States. Broadcom shares plunged by 5.5% after the chipmaker forecasted revenue for the current quarter below expectations. Dell Technologies shares surged by 21% after the PC manufacturer raised its annual revenue and profit forecasts. Corporate news had a mixed effect on the stock indexes. As a result, out of the 11 sector indexes in the S&P 500, 6 increased, led by energy. For the week, the S&P 500 index rose by 2.5%. The new week in the United States market will be short due to a holiday on a Monday. Few macroeconomic events are still ahead. The attention will be mainly focused on the business activity indexes in various sectors. In addition, investors will receive updated information on a consumer credit usage and data on the ISM services sector, which accounts for 2/3 of the economy. Investor sentiment in the tech sector will be tested this week with the initial public offering of a semiconductor giant ARM Holdings, targeting a price range of $47 to $51. As a result, the company is valued at $50 and $54 billion. The price range not previously reported would make ARM the most valuable company listed on the New York Stock Exchange since the debut of an electric vehicle maker Rivian Automotive in 2021. According to data starting from 1945, the S&P 500 index typically shows its worst monthly performance in September, with an average decline of 0.7%. September 2023 also promises lots of a volatility catalyst for the market. The US inflation data from September 13th is likely to support rumors of a cooling consumer prices and steady economic growth, which have been driving stock growth for most of the year. Investors are looking forward to the Federal Reserve's policy meeting. Meanwhile, there is a risk of the fourth federal government shutdown in a decade if squabbling lawmakers cannot reach an agreement by September 13th, the end of the current fiscal year. There might also be some shock about the budget deficit, which, as noted by the Washington Post, is projected to reach $2 trillion for the year ending in September, even in a steady economy. The euro and the pound sterling are setting the tone in the currency market on Monday. Major central banks are holding policy meetings, and this week the Reserve Bank of Australia and the Bank of Canada will unveil the policy decisions. The US dollar is on the defensive today against major rival currencies. The US dollar index slipped by 0.16% to trade at 104.06 at the time of recording this video. The intraday CAD for the index is defined between 103.70 and 104.30. Traders avoid making large bets in the thin market with a low liquidity on a Monday. Despite a 0.16% decline, the US dollar index remains not far away from 104.44, the highest level in 2 months notched on August 25. The index gained 1.7% in August, having surpassed a 2-month high. On a Friday, China ramped up measures to stimulate its weakening economy. Beijing plans further auctions, including easing restrictions on housing purchases. The Australian dollar and New Zealand dollar also received support from these measures. A series of economic data indicating a slowdown in inflation and a softening of the labor market situation, intensifying the impression that the US economy is cooling down, with the hopes for a soft landing increasing. Meanwhile, on a Monday, the currency market might get an additional boost following a speech by the ECB President Christine Lagarde. The Canadian dollar is opening a week with minor reinforcement. The USD CAD pair is now trading at 1.3589, 0.07% down, within the intraday CAD between 1.3570 and 1.3610. The loonie is under pressure ahead of the Bank of Canada's policy meeting as expectations for the status quo increased after the data on Friday. Canada's economy unexpectedly contracted by 0.2% in the second quarter in annual terms. The reading is much worse than the Bank of Canada's forecast of a 1.5% growth. Perhaps Canada's economy has already slipped into a moderate recession. This figure suggests that the Bank of Canada will keep interest rates unchanged. Market participants sharply reduced the odds of an interest rate hike on Wednesday, estimating the probability at 7% after the release of GDP data, down from 23% before the data came out. As for oil quotes, they also remained stable on Monday against the backdrop of expected cuts by OPEC and its allies. Brent crude futures rose by 0.16% to $88.68 per barrel. The crypto market is opening a new week cautiously. Bitcoin was under selling pressure at the time of recording this video. Having dropped by 0.5%, the token was trading at $25,900. Popular altcoins such as Ethereum, Solana, Binance, Cardano, Ripple and Litecoin are wavering between 0.7% dips and 0.6% gains. The crypto market still struggles to emerge from the dark forecast of uncertainty it was dragged into by the US Securities and Exchange Commission. On the one hand, traders have reason for optimism given the court ruling that the rejection of a grayscale's ETF application was arbitrary and capricious. On the other hand, the Commission continues to delay the approval process for Bitcoin ETF applications from BlackRock, ARK Invest, Betwise, WisdomTree, OneArk, and Invesco. The review period has been extended to October 2023, adding to the pessimism. As for today's outlook for Bitcoin, it might well stay within the range of 25,900 to 26,200. Breaking beyond these borders promises either a drop to 25,400 or a rise to 26,500 for the token. However, the latter seems unlikely under current circumstances without some very good news. Make profits with the InstaForex. Feel comfortable to leave your comments and ask your questions, and see you online tomorrow.